Centralized, we did decentralize, but then we noticed that we were having a lot of logistical problems. So PSC then said, let's centralize and solve the issue of various layers of recruitment and a lot, because the database we are using is one. And we would recruit 3,000 people. When we take them down to the provinces, we discover 1,500 have already been employed, because the lower levels were also recruiting at the same time. So to try and sanitize that, we have been asked to, first of all, centralize it. Then the issue of language. Definitely the language policy of this country at school level is that at infant module, children should be taught in the mother tongue. And what we have done to try and make sure we push that is to then say any teacher who is deployed to teach the infant module should be very proficient in the language where they are going to teach. And like the Honorable Speaker was saying in the morning, it's a question of proficiency, not a question of you sharing the mother tongue with the child. If a question of my surname was important, I would never have been allowed to teach English in any classroom because I don't have an English surname. But my whole teaching life I was teaching English. So, because I'm proficient in that language. So one thing that we have to help each other with is when we actually on the database then look for information from the teachers, we ask them, there are 2 languages, local languages, where they are proficient in. So if they don't tell us a lie, that statistic helps us. But we notice that in some cases, especially the last kind of exercise, when we started investigating, some of them were telling us, so there was a bit of dishonesty in some situations where people would tell lies that they are proficient in Tonga or whatever, just because they knew they would jump the queue if they said that. But what we have then said is, if it is proved that that teacher is not proficient, they have to be returned to us. And once they are returned to us, we try and find out what's happening. If it was an error, maybe when they were being deployed, we redeploy them. If it was not an error, we just throw them back to the database to go and join the queue like everybody else. And we've done quite a number. But we also have a danger, a real danger here, of getting reverse kind of tribalism, where some people were just sent back. Your surname doesn't fit here, go away. And one girl who came to me was born and bred in Bulawayo, went to Ntunta Primary, Ihlati Secondary, and JMN Poly, but was told go back because your surname is wrong. So there are so many dynamics that we would really look at and be careful. The issue of 2015 versus 2019. Again, here we have to be very clear. We are looking at age of qualification as one very important thing. If the people have got the same qualifications, if they are qualified to teach junior education, for example, and one is 2015, the other is 2019, there should not be a case where the 2019 gets a place before the 2015, unless something wrong has happened. However, the ECD or the infant teachers have the advantage that there are very few still. So even 2020, some of them have been employed for some of the indigenous languages because we don't have people there. The advanced level, sciences, technical, vocational, will also be employed much early because those are areas where demand is still very, very much. The people who will normally be still stuck 2015, 26 are people with a general or junior qualification, where we have about 17,000 people who qualify, but who are competing for the same post. Or it could be people in the humanities who might not be, whose subjects might be overly competed for. I hope I answer the Honorable Member.
It's not necessarily the proficiency only that we're looking at. It was where they were situated. Because you remember at that time we were saying, this proficient person that you take, proficient in a particular language, that you take and put into Binga, kahlali khona. So the chances is uzawuye Binga, ukuthi nje angene into the ministry, and then facilitated to then be transferred. So if you pick up from Ovele Binga, the chances is uvela khonapo from the community itself. They are likely to continue, and I think that was our underlying issue. And I think that's where our problem is now with the centralization system. Because I think you are using one criteria of the proficiency to the language, and not necessarily, okay, I'm seeing you shaking your head, and not necessarily the location. Because for us, the location was also crucial in ensuring that when they get in and are employed, they will stay. Otherwise, they will say, we are good, we can speak whatever. Go to that place, stay for just a month, then be transferred immediately. And we are left with the same problem. I think that's where we're coming from.
Is that you would prefer. And in most cases, children will put, or teachers, will have their home province as the first one. And then second, maybe a neighboring one. So through that is another way we were trying to make sure that we get local people at their places. But we hear the concern. We will go back, because it was the Public Services Commission which was saying that we were moving back and forth. We'll go back to PSC, make them realize that people are still saying, let locals teach in their locality, and we can see how we can improve the system there.
Contradicting the presidential directive on devolution. Now you are ministers of state for provincial affairs and devolution. You are centralizing and contradicting the president. Why don't you center your recruitment guided and led by the ministers of state in the provinces, where you have your education officer, you call him inspector now, at the district level, and you also have an officer responsible public service. Are they still there? Yes. They are still there. So you have a modicum of this decentralization. The president said devolve, and you say centralize. What are you doing? What are you doing? And in fact, I've heard some complaints, people from Rwanda, for example. A list comes from Harare, and in that list only 10 or so locals, but they are there, trained teachers from Rwanda. The same if you go to Binga, you find people are centrally recruited, but they are teachers there in Binga, prepared to teach in their home environment. So, as a matter of urgency, Honorable Minister, please, can you follow the presidential approach of devolution and work with the ministers of state